Whenever you come across fractions, you may have to sometimes add, subtract, multiply, or divide them. Whenever you are adding or subtracting, you can only do so if they have a common denominator, meaning the number on the bottom of the fraction for both fractions that you're trying to add have to be the same thing. For example, we're adding 1/5 and 2/5. The 5 at the bottom, all right, both fractions have a common denominator, meaning same denominator in the bottom. You may, whenever you come across a fraction that does not have a common denominator, say we're trying to add 1/2 to 1/4, you have to convert both fractions into a common denominator, meaning a number that both of them can go into. So let's take a look at this real quick. So we have 2 and 4. All right. One way to do this, all right, to find a number is to go through what's called their multiples. All right. What a multiple is, every time you multiply this, 2 by a number, like 2 times 1, it's whatever the answer is. All right. So it's like 2 times 1 is 2. 2 times 2 is 4. 2 times 3 is 6. 2 times 4 is 8. 2 times 1 is 10. Most of the time, you only want to go through 5 numbers, because generally after 5 multiples, they end up having a common denominator. You may have to continue on until 10 numbers, but general cases, 5 is a good number to start with. So now we got the 2's. Let's look at the 4's real quick. So 4 times 1 is 4. 4 times 2 is 8. 4 times 3 is 12. 4 times 4 is 16. 4 times 5 is 20. So let's take a look at our 2 lists real quick. So between 2 and 4, the numbers that come up for both are 4 and 8. Now we want to choose the smallest number to use, all right, which in this case is 4. So let's go back. So we said we had 1/2 plus 1/4. And since they're both got different denominators, we have to change the 1/2 into something similar that we can use with 4. All right. And how you do this, all right, so we got to change 1/2 into a number of 4 at the bottom. So let's put a line right there, and we're going to change it real quick. So to go from 2 to 4, we had to multiply by 2. And whatever you do to the bottom, you do to the top. So since we had to multiply 2 times 2 to get 4, to make both 1/2 and 1/4 have common denominators, we got to multiply the 1 at the top of the half by 2. So 1 times 2 equals 2. Now we can add 2/4 plus 1/4. And how you add is just simply keep the common denominator and add the numerator. So 2 plus 1 equals 3. So 1/2 plus 1/4 equals 3/4. Now, same thing with subtracting. You have to have a common denominator whenever you are subtracting. All right. Now, whenever you are multiplying or dividing fractions, you do not need to have a common denominator. All right. For example, we are multiplying fractions. We'll just use 1/2 and 2/4 again. So 1/2 times, or my apologies, 1/2 times 1/4, not 2/4. All right. When you multiply fractions, you simply just multiply across the top. All right. You multiply across the top, and that becomes your new fraction. So 1 times 1 equals 1. 2 times 4 equals 8. So 1/2 times 1/4 equals 1/8. So that's when you multiply fractions is you multiply across the top and then across the bottom. When you divide fractions, all right, you have to do what's called keep, flip, change. All right, or I like to call it KFC. So what you do is you keep the first one. So say let's use 1/2 and 1/4 again. All right, we have 1/2 divided by 1/4. You have to keep the first fraction. All right. You have to, I'm going to actually use change instead of flip. You have to change the division sign to multiplication. All right. And you flip the second fraction to 4/1. All right. What we've done, okay, the reason we do this is you keep the first fraction. All right. The opposite or the inverse operation of division is multiplication. And to help us complete the process, we write the reciprocal or the opposite fraction of 1/4, which in this case is 4/1. You just simply flip the numerator and then the denominator. So all we have to do now is multiply. So let me erase this real quick. All we have to do is multiply across, just like we did a little while ago, to figure out what is 1/2 divided by 1/4. So 1 times 4 is 4. 2 times 1 is 2. We can make that smaller and say it's 2. So let's erase this real quick. So 1/2 divided by 1/4 is 2. And if you don't believe me, you can use the calculator. If I'm somehow wrong, I apologize. I'll fix it later. So let's take a look at the example below. All right. A road sign shows that Edaville is exactly 1 3/4 miles due east, and Wallatown is exactly 2.5 miles due west. We need to figure out what is the distance between the two towns. So what we want to do is, so we have 1 3/4 plus 2 1/2. All right. So the reason we want to add is it's looking for what is the distance. All right. We're looking for a total. Most of the times, if you see total in the question, it usually requires addition. That's why we are adding. So we have 1 3/4 plus 2 1/2. First thing we want to do is add the whole numbers, which is the numbers in front of the fraction. That is called the whole number. All right. So we'll automatically add those. That equals 3. Now we need to find a common denominator for the fractions. All right, because remember, we are dealing with adding fractions, which means we have to find a common denominator to add the fractions together. So if you look at this from our example earlier, we have 3/4 and 1/2. Well, from our example earlier, we discovered that a fraction with a denominator of 4 and a fraction with a denominator of 2 have a common denominator of 4. So we can keep 3/4, and all we have to do is change the 1/2, which we found out earlier was 2/4. All right, and we add across. Now, that gives us 5/4. All right, which is not a bad thing, but most of the times, if you see a fraction on the GED test, you're gonna find the answers that are simplified, meaning everything has been shortened. All right. So looking at 5/4, we can actually take a whole number out of 5/4 and add it to the 3. So the 3 can actually become a 4 because we took a whole thing of 4s out of it. And by doing that, that leaves us with 1. So 1 3/4 plus 2 1/2. So the total distance between Edaville and Wallatown is 4 1/4 miles. Alright, so what I want you to do is work through the practice skill. Alright, answer the questions and check your answers with the solutions at the bottom, and then move on to the practice questions. If there's anything you need help with, let me know, and I will do my best to clarify any misunderstandings you may be having with anything.